All right, welcome to another edition of the 24th Floor. It's been a minute between vacations and holidays, but now we're back like we never left.
Back like your favorite rerun. Now, there's a lot to unpack this week, from some of the nation's top high school basketball right here in Memphis to the Grizzlies struggling to make a run.
Yeah, but you got to start with the big dogs.
Yes.
Or maybe we should call them the large rebels. At this point, we're talking Ole Miss football. They're headed to the college football semifinal where they will face Miami.
Oh, I can't stand Miami. Me being an Atlanta guy, this is a program who I've had great disdain for since I was a kid. So I definitely feel the Rebels right here. And joining us now is a frequent friend of the program. He's been talking Ole Miss football with us all season long. You can't talk Ole Miss athletics without him. He's the host of the Locked On Ole Miss podcast, which you can catch right here on the 24 Plus app, YouTube, or anywhere you get your podcast. Welcome to the program again after so many weeks, Mr. Stephen Willis.
Good to be here, guys. It feels like we've been talking about this stuff over and over for like 14 weeks, and it is weird. I'm going to find out how good of shape I am in, because it is hard carrying the hopes and dreams of the entire Southeastern Conference on your back. So we will see how it goes tomorrow against the Miami Hurricanes.
That's a whole nother conversation, honestly, about the SEC's performance in bowl games.
Yeah.
Which I think, unfortunately, opens the door for other conferences to make the case for them to have more games.
Yeah, because, now you're starting to say, like, the SEC was all hype, no action. But at the same time, this was bound to happen because the SEC was playing each other. They were essentially cannibalizing itself in the playoffs.
Yeah, Stephen, real quick, what's your take on that, the SEC's performance in bowl game seasons? Not just the playoffs, we're talking bowl games in general.
Well, I will say this. If Ole Miss is winning playoff games and the rest of the SEC teams are losing, I'm fine with that, if that's the way it goes. But I also think it's hilarious, the narrative of the SEC being down, the SEC being bad, all of this going over and over again. You have a Southeastern Conference team in the semifinals of the playoff that nobody's talking about. They're talking about how Bama got blown out by Indiana and Georgia lost a game. Didn't mention who they lose to, but that they just lost. And that's kind of a weird take as well. That's kind of a brand over substance type argument, but that's a conversation for another day.
Yep, today's conversation is all about semifinals, all about the next big one. First of all, super congratulations to Coach Pete Golden and company for not just getting the win, but can we say getting the monkey off your back at the same time?
Yeah. Mayor Pete. I call him Mayor Pete. Steven knows what I'm talking about.
Yeah, he is tied for third in all-time SEC playoff wins as a head coach. Pete Golden.
Look at that stat.
But, seriously, there was so much talk about can they do it without Lane Kiffin.
Yeah.
Beat Tulane is beating Tulane or whatever, but can you win the big ones without Lane Kiffin? So what's your take on him being able to get that win and kind of get, like I said, get that monkey off your back, get that out of the way?
Especially since this was a team that beat them the first time around.
Yeah, and getting the win is really cool, obviously, because of what it means. But the impressive part of that game to me, Kirby Smart was the coach that flinched. He's the one that didn't think in the second half, even though he was leading at the time, that he could win the game. He needed to steal possessions. And when you look at that and think about that, Pete Golding on the other side, making the current GOAT of college football, basically, as a college football coach, flinch, that right there is the best sign of the entire Sugar Bowl to me.
So something that I've been thinking a lot about with this Georgia game is, could you say that not only the outside bubble, but nobody really projected Ole Miss to win this game? Because now we look at it, Stephen, Lane is basically pulling the troops. So aside from Charlie Weiss and Kevin Smith, all those guys got to go back to LSU. And so it makes me think, Stephen, Lane was making this big fuss about, can I coach in the playoffs? And then he's pulling his guys back. So how would it even have worked had he stayed?
It wouldn't have worked. It would have been what we talked about back in November if he stayed. It would have been an abject disaster. It would have been Matt Campbell going from Iowa State to Penn State and taking 20 players over. It would have been catastrophic. And Pete Golding, getting the job immediately, ironing down to where Charlie Weiss Jr. is going to stay for the duration of the playoffs. Anybody else can stay that they want to. If not, that's fine as well. There's one person on that assistant coach staff that really mattered, and that was Charlie Weiss Jr. He was able to get that. He won the Tulane game, which honestly, there was more pressure on winning that game than winning even the Georgia game. And this game against Miami, the matchup is intriguing. They always talk about in boxing how styles make fights. This is going to be a really interesting thing with Miami running the ball. Mark Fletcher, the best line in the college football playoffs right now. And the physicality on defense, you have to work. That defensive line, Reuben Bain against Trinidad Chambliss. There's a lot of storylines going into this game, not the least of which of the keys to happen on both sides of the ball for both teams to be successful. Because I think I had Alex Dono from Locked On Canes on my podcast today, and I was like, hey, everybody that's in the Final Four is 100% believing that they are going to win a national championship, or they wouldn't be in this spot. Yeah, they should. So this is going to be 4 evenly matched teams. There's not really any brands in it if you take out Miami. Miami's kind of the only brand that's left in the tournament. And it's just going to be really good football. And other than the fact that they're all Nick Saban disciples, it's relatively unknown and people that you wouldn't normally think would be there. I always joke, it's like, hey, the 4 teams that we thought in the beginning of the season are in the semifinals because – nobody had Indiana as the best team in college football. Nobody had Ole Miss sneaking in there. This is supposed to be a rebuilding year. They had 2 starters returning or something like that. Oregon, okay, I'll give you Oregon. And in Miami, who knew what happened with them because everybody assumed that Mario Cristobal would stumble at some point like he has. So this is a really fun Fiesta Bowl. It's going to be a really fun Peach Bowl as well. I think college football has a chance to have its best Final Four that they've ever had in college football, and it might not be the brands. It's not Alabama versus Clemson or something like that. But I think if you had a championship game of Ole Miss versus Indiana, it would be some of the best football that we've seen.
I'll agree with the idea that it could be that this year's football might be the most fun, entertaining, engaging football. But I do think that I don't know if college football is ready for what college basketball is already good at. College basketball, you can have an unknown advance in the playoff, in the tournament, and what happens?
You see upsets.
Everybody jumps on board, right?
Yeah. Bracket busters.
Yes, everybody's encouraging these no-name teams to go be successful. In college football, it's almost the opposite, it feels like sometimes, where everybody's almost disappointed that the old brands, as you keep saying, aren't there. And so I'm hoping that if this happens, to your point, Stephen, that, and I get your take right here, Rich, that I'm hoping that actually does happen, that people get on board with kind of a new taste of college football.
I think it's more so that I like it, that this is why the 12-team playoff works. Because in the past, especially for a run for a lot of my childhood, it was SEC always winning the Natty. And then now, like you said, anybody can do it. Now you have a chance.
Well, not anybody.
Well, I'm saying like a Big Ten team. Ohio State won it last year, but for the most part, the Big Ten has not been in there for the national championship. And so now the Big Ten is got an increased spotlight. Miami really putting the ACC back on brand.
But they do have a former SEC quarterback.
Who?
Don't they? Who's Miami's quarterback?
Oh, Carson Beck. All right, come on.
Went to Georgia. So I'm saying, it's not, there's still an SEC tie in there.
Now you're getting into semantics like
He's
that.
He's their starting quarterback.
It doesn't matter, though. He's with Miami now. And like Steven said, Miami's been a perennial chokes.
Correct.
every year
so they
Miami's
got an SEC quarterback.
You know what I'm saying? But he's not the reason they won the game. They beat Ohio State because of their defense.
Yeah. Stephen, what's your take on that? Do you think that the people Do you think the people are ready for this new era of, can we call it Cinderella college football? It's the teams you don't expect.
Yeah, yes, but the reason is because the teams that you expected before were like 6 teams, always, every single year. Now it might be 18 teams. Now team number 25 is going to be hard to get into the tournament, but let's be real about this. Teams like Arkansas, teams like South Carolina, Kentucky, Vanderbilt, can be in the conversation now because it's expanded out to the point where it can take them. It's not just an Alabama and Georgia party holding the hopes and dreams of the entire SEC up. Now it can be a much larger swath of the conference, and I don't know about the G5s, but that's another conversation for another day.
Don't get Ruben started on that.
But the middle of the Southeastern Conference have more of a legit chance to get into the actual game because for decades we were just observers of what was going on. Now we can actually go in there and inflict and make a name for ourselves and not just root and chant SEC because some team in Alabama or Georgia are making plays.
Now, we only got a couple of minutes left, but we've already kept you on here 10 minutes at this point, Stephen, so we're not going to keep you all day. But I want to get what's your prediction on this game? Like you say, it's a style thing. It's offense versus defense, really, at this point. But Miami's known for defense. Ole Miss known for offense.
The irresistible force versus the immovable object.
Yes. Well, this game, Ole Miss has scored over 30 points in 9 straight games. And in those 9 straight games, you have 2 games against the Georgia Bulldogs, including one in Athens, Georgia, and one in Norman, Oklahoma against the Sooners. And that's 3 pretty good defenses. So I'm thinking that Ole Miss is going to get to the 30-point mark. Now, the important thing in this game is you have to stay as close to on schedule as you can. You don't want to have a 3rd and 10, 3rd and 15 so those ends can just tee off. You need short yardage and 2nd and 3rd down to move the ball down the field. Ole Miss gets that done. Kewan Lacey, all the guys coming back, they're still celebrating in Oxford, Mississippi. Ole Miss wins the game 31-24.
Woo. What about you, Rich? What you got?
You know, I got to save that for Donald One Beds.
Okay, all right.
Bluff City Lines.
All right, what's your last
You need to give your take.
Stephen? I think Ole Miss wins because I think Ole Miss wins because I think Ole Miss is riding, and I'm going to use the term again, I think they're riding that Cinderella high. If this was March Madness, everybody's money would be on Ole Miss. If this was a March Madness basketball tournament, in this situation, with the way they're playing, with what they're doing, everybody's money would be on Ole Miss. And I think they win. And I think if they win, they have a legitimate shot at becoming a national championship. I agree. I think they have a legitimate shot. I think, and to your point, Stephen, before Rich takes over, Kewan Lacey and Trinidad Chambliss both saying that they are coming back. Chambliss, of course, pending NCAA approval. That's huge for Ole Miss because there's no question now. It's like, let's just go roll.
That is a perfect segue for what I wanted to ask.
That's what I'm known for, a perfect segue.
So Stephen, obviously, you know, a big thing that we talked about with the Kiffin thing was is he going to try to poach guys? So it came as no surprise to me that LSU was hoping for Chambliss, hoping for Lacey, hoping for Carniero, and all those guys coming back. Do you think now, you know what I'm saying, with this Chambliss situation, because I listened to where he's getting a little frustrated, where do you feel about how this Chambliss thing is going to go? Because now Ole Miss is have to work on a backup plan while still focusing on the now. I heard they got DJ Lagway, who they're trying to get in for a visit. Where do you stand on Chambliss? Do you think that this could be the last run for him, even though he says he wants to come back? I think he might be like, you know what, man, I'm tired of waiting. I'm balling out. Why not try to go to the NFL? Screw it. What do you think?
It's possible. I mean, that's absolutely possible. The reality of it, though, is if he can get approved for his waiver, he's probably going to make more money at Ole Miss than he would in the NFL, at least in the first year. And so that effort's going to be there. So Ole Miss has to go on 2 paths. One, 100% that Trinidad Chambliss is going to be Ole Miss's quarterback in 2026. And 2, if Trinidad Chambliss is not there, you need to have a high-level starting quarterback in charge of your roster. This roster that's going to be so good potentially in 2026, you need a high-profile guy as well. So it's 2 parallel paths. You could end up with both situations to where Chambliss is there and they get somebody in like a DJ Lagway or something like that, or the young guy, Deuce Knight from Auburn, that Ole Miss is looking at as well. Those 3 names are probably one of them is the starting quarterback in 2026. I right now think that Trinidad Chambliss is eventually going to get cleared. It just might not be in the next day or 2. Now that they have legal representation, the NCAA is likely, not likely, but if they deny it, it's going to get appealed immediately. They're already working on what they need to do to appeal it. And if that happens, it's going to end up in the court system. And tradition says the NCAA blinks if it goes to the court system.
Well, my biggest issue with all of this is that you have a smaller window for the transfer portal.
Yeah.
So if you're Ole Miss, you have to try to make those decisions without knowing the outcome of Trinidad Chambliss. If you knew the outcome already, you could go in the portal and spend as much money as you need to on a quarterback. Without knowing, you could, in theory, go in the portal, get you a high-named guy who's going to come, and then Trinidad gets cleared. And now a DJ Lagway, does he want to come sit behind Trinidad Chambliss? Probably not. He's probably going to go somewhere and play.
Ruben's burying the lead. He's not rocking with Trinidad getting his 6th year. He's like, get a job.
Yeah, bro, he's 37 years old. It's time to go. It's time to move on. No, but the truth is.
What is that? They're like the NBA commissioner, get ready to learn LinkedIn, buddy?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I will say this about the Trinidad Chambliss. He does have a legitimate case for medical red shirt. Now, it does sound like he had tonsillitis.
He did.
And people recover from that fairly quickly. But
I think he also had mono.
Yeah, so
And
mono does
like
wipe
months.
you out. Yeah,
Yeah.
mono wipes you out for months. So I'll give him credit for getting that 6th year back at this point in time.
Okay. Hey, man, I'm going to rock with Trinidad. I've been with Trinidad since day one. Steven knows ever since the Georgia State game, I've been rocking with Trinidad. So he's my guy, and I promise you we will get a Trinidad flag on this program.
Well, we'll have plenty of time because he's going to play till he's 47. All right, Stephen, that's going to do it for our show today with you. We appreciate you taking the time to join us as usual.
Steven, what are you working on, just before we let you go?
Working on some more crossovers with some Miami people and a reaction show tomorrow after the game. And then if the national championship game is an option, I am planning on being in Miami. We just have to work out how that's going to happen.
All right, we're looking forward to it. Hopefully, we down there in Miami, or at least we talking to you from Miami. I don't know if we're going to be down there, but, fingers crossed.
Don't forget you can catch Stephen on all the places you catch your podcasts, including right here on
The 24 Plus.
All right, Stephen, thanks again for your time. Have a great rest of your day, brother. We got to take a quick break. Time for that quick break. And when we come back, it's time to start talking some hoops.
Yeah.